Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness has had great growth in the past 3 years. And I believe with that abundance and with that growth, yes, we have responsibilities to our communities and to our organization. And we also, I believe, have responsibilities to other communities that are struggling, because we know what that's like. And I'm not saying we still don't struggle. There are areas we still desperately need resources. But I think about during the time of COVID. Last March, the immigrant and refugee community in Maine was hit hard. We had the worst racial disparities here in Maine than anywhere else in the nation. 50%, nearly 50% of COVID cases were Black, African, is how the data is collected. We're one of the whitest states in the nation. And about half of our COVID cases were of racial and ethnic minority communities. And that, to me, screams of systems failures. And what I worry is when you have those systems failures, how are you responding? What are your systems of response? And what Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness learned, because we have friendships and relationships with people in the immigrant and refugee communities and organizations that serve the community, is that they were in need of resources. And where we had resources to share, we shared. And not only did we share resources during that critical time, we also made a commitment. And we made a commitment that we would do all we can to begin a collaboration, to begin an opportunity for us as Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness that has grant writing support, to write for opportunities that supported all of us. And so we were able to do that, and we are excited to say that just last week, we were awarded $1 million, and $1 million to support other immigrant and refugee communities in their COVID response efforts. And in doing that, we were able to write, we were able to serve, and we're able to teach. We're able to teach how we're able to be successful in our communities and take what lessons you want with you and let us support you in your work. So we're so committed to not only our communities, but we will not stop at Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness until all communities thrive. And yes, we prioritize our population, we prioritize Wabanaki people, but we are also deeply committed to taking our lessons learned and sharing where we can with anyone who needs it. Healing. We talk a lot about healing here at the organization. Healing's complex. Healing's different for everyone. And so it goes back to what I said, that at Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness, we truly believe in the statement, we have a place for you. Wherever you are, whatever your needs are in your healing journey. So where does it begin? I believe it begins with first listening. What do people need? What spaces need to be created or recreated? And then I believe the service begins. And building those relationships, it's complex. There's truth-telling in that process of where have we failed in the past, what those wounds are, what they were caused by. There's truth-telling from the systems. The systems have a lot of responsibility when it comes to the generational disparities that Wabanaki people face today. We don't live very long in our communities. Our average life expectancy is around 55 years old as Wabanaki people. The systems haven't served us well. So being able to create those systems for ourselves and centering culture, that's healing. We have the answers in what makes us well, and almost always culture is going to be a part of that. So it's listening, and then it's creating, and then it's dreaming, it's believing we can create that. And that's what we're doing. The Center for Wabanaki Healing and Recovery is a multi-site campus. So we have properties in Bangor to Millinocket. Millinocket is the home to the Katahdin region, Mount Katahdin, a sacred mountain to Wabanaki people. We hold ceremony as Wabanaki people on that mountain, at that mountain, every single year. We knew when we wanted to have a multi-acre campus, we wanted it near the mountain. And we were able to secure a property, which is called our Gathering Place, which is a beautiful over 45-acre property along the Penobscot River in Millinocket, and a property that is mostly forested, 40+ campsites that we have some work to do, but that we can revitalize. We have nesting eagles. Our team that's been doing all the groundwork and creating sacred medicine walks that have signs so people can learn about our sacred medicines right on the property. This is the site of healing, the site of connection to culture. We have a sacred fire pit, as well as that sacred medicine walk that I just spoke of. We really look forward to creating a guided canoe trail down the river where you can hear from a Penobscot voice about the sacred Penobscot River. You can hear about the place names from a Penobscot perspective and not from a non-native perspective. We have so many hopes and dreams that we just don't want Indigenous people to heal and connect there. We do want it open for other people to understand our values and to learn about Wabanaki people. And that's down the road, but right now, this is a place where already it's brought healing to people in recovery. And this is the home of where we have our women's circles every other month. So we spend a day there with our women. So our hub women's circles consists of our talking circle, consists of the day at this beautiful healing place. So if women want to come, connect to the water, go in a kayak down the river, or go in a hammock near one of the campsites, we have a place for you to relax during that day. And then part of that day, we're making regalia. Not all of our women have their own regalia. And so what we're doing during this time, every other month, is a different part of that regalia making process. So at the end of the year, at the end of the 10 months, we will have every woman that was a part of this process to have her own regalia for her or her child or whoever she decided to make it for. So we're walking people through that process, allowing people to share their stories, collect data, if you will, through our talking circles to allow for that innovation to happen. So all of this is taking place at the Gathering Place, one of the buildings that make up the Center for Wabanaki Healing and Recovery. Our partnership with the Maine Women's Fund has been critical in so many ways beyond funding opportunities. One of the things that the Maine Women's Fund is, as I said, is our biggest champion. They talk about our work in the circles that they are in. And so what that has resulted in is many presentations, keynote presentations, training opportunities where we're facilitating those trainings, we're presenting on those stages and presenting on not just our work, but how we do our work, how we lead with love, how we believe in a place of abundance rather than scarcity, and cooperation and collaboration and not competition. So what the Maine Women's Fund has done is provided us those opportunities to talk about both the work, which is important, because I do believe we're changing lives, but also how we're doing it. And I never want to lose that message, because that's a place of love, that's a place of abundance, and that's the place we love to talk about. The Hub has allowed us to create a planning team of mostly Indigenous women. And what we've been able to do is brainstorm opportunities. When COVID hit, it was difficult because we couldn't meet. We did meet virtually eventually, but it did take us some time to create those systems. And so one of the innovations, one of the exciting things that came out of conversations with Indigenous women was the need to connect our young Indigenous people, not just young, but really across the age spectrum, to learning. And when we were focused on the younger population, we were focused on them because we knew that there were issues regarding learning and connectivity because people were home. And so how can we provide both a joy for and an opportunity for learning, even in this time of disconnection? So one of the goals we have through our Literacy and Love program is to bring back that love and joy to learning. Indigenous people, and this is all across this nation, have complex relationships with our educational system. It wasn't built for Indigenous ways of thinking. It actually was built to get rid of Indigenous ways of thinking and learning and knowing. And so what we want to create is opportunities and new relationships with learning and bring that joy back to reading. And so our Literacy and Love program primarily focuses on Indigenous books from Wabanaki authors from here in our state, which is wonderful, but also across the nation. And our goal is to create a library not in every tribal community, in every tribal home. There's no reason why we can't have a library in every tribal household that meets the needs of that household, no matter what age or demographic you come from. And so that's our goal. We've been able to deliver books not just to our tribal households, our children and our women and families, but also to women and Indigenous men in recovery homes, as well as those who are incarcerated. And so we are so committed, and this all came from Indigenous women coming together because of the development of a hub, to think creatively of how we connect our young people to learning, and then recreate our experiences with learning. And not to forget any one of our community members, and attending to those responsibilities, knowing that our Indigenous women live in all of these spaces. So that's just one innovation or exciting project that came out of creative Indigenous women who know how to create solutions to their problems, if only given the container and opportunity to do so. You know, when I think about the big dream of this work, and one of the things that we do at my organization, our organization at Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness, is we dream big. So what do I want? I want healing opportunities for every Wabanaki woman. Not just here in Maine, wherever they might live across the country. I have sisters in California. I want every Wabanaki woman to have opportunities for healing. And I think we can do that. We have some fundraising goals to accomplish, but I think we can do that. And I also want to be thinking about those Wabanaki women that are not here yet, the 7-generational thinking that we must be implementing. What about not just the women and girls in our families that are here today? What about those Wabanaki families that we haven't met yet? Our organization has been committed to creating systems for data collection. What we know as Indigenous people is that oftentimes we're not reflected in large data systems that capture the health of our nation, of our state, or capture unemployment rates, or other important data points that really capture the vibrancy and the wellness of a community. So that is something we've been committed to for quite some time. One of the things the hub made us focus on was the data that was significant to Wabanaki women. And it created opportunities for us to be in conversation with Wabanaki women on those data points that we don't know, we don't have information for, we don't have data sets that capture that information for us. So how do we create that? And how do we create those spaces to have those conversations? And so not only are we having those conversations, we're moving this to Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness's data team. Our organization has the capacity then to say, okay, what are the solutions you suggest? So the hub generates the ideas, generates the hopes and dreams, and then we're able to pass it off to the right area within Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness to take it from there. And so it really is a great feeder for innovation that allows us to solve problems, to create creative solutions from the voices, right from the Wabanaki women in the communities. So through our hub planning and through our development of what is it do we want to focus on, a couple of things kept coming to the forefront. One was, and because of the process of the hub development, was around data. What data is existing? What data is capturing the needs of our Indigenous populations accurately, as well as creating spaces for storytelling. Indigenous people, storytelling is something that has been significant to us for thousands of years, and utilizing that method of data collection is something that we're committed to through this hub. So we're creating women's circles where women are meeting the same women every other month. And they're not just convening to have a circle, which is deeply significant. I don't want to minimize that, but we're spending a women's day together. So Indigenous women from every tribe in the state are coming together and having a talking circle, having a traditional way of generating data of those things that are significant to us. Not only that are significant to us, what were those dreams and goals that we had as young girls that we accomplished, or maybe we didn't accomplish, but say we accomplished them. What were those things that made the meaningful difference? What supports did we have around us? What supports did we wish we had that we didn't? And really having an opportunity of telling our own stories and what made the difference, or perhaps where we made mistakes and what we needed at the time to make a different choice, and creating those safe cultural spaces for us to collect those stories and then use those stories along with those women and start creating those interventions, if you will, those opportunities for different choices. And that is what we are committed to with this hub, is hearing these stories. That is the data we want to hear. That is the data we want to use. And then creating that programming. So that's one area of the hub. And there's so much exciting components of what's going to be in those women's days. But let me talk about the other component of the work, and that's childcare. Childcare is something that from the beginning rose to the surface for our women as a challenge to economic mobility, to finishing school, to lots of different opportunities. Affordable childcare is an issue and has been an issue for a very long time. So our priorities for the hub are pretty clear. One big area of focus is childcare and creating an Indigenous place for our children and families to connect to services and to heal and thrive. The other area is creating Indigenous talking circles for our women. Those talking circles will be very focused and focused on those areas of priority that keep women either in vulnerable conditions economically or offer women opportunities. And so creating those talking circles is a great way to be able to collect data that will then be used to create programs. And so we're pretty excited to be able to prioritize that work, first time ever, because of our involvement with the hub. And I can't wait to talk to you in a year so we can show you what we've been able to create.